Hi, my name's Shayne. In the beginning of October to January, I created the animated short film Meowtamorphosis. This video will go through a breakdown of my thoughts and feelings throughout my first short film. I highly recommend watching Meowtamorphosis first, as it will be in the description and in my portfolio. To give context, production took 4 months to complete. This included pre-production, production, and post-production. We had to wrap our animation to the theme of metamorphosis. Finding the idea was the challenging part. Usually for me, a thought or inspiration comes unexpectedly. I usually just, go with the flow. That's where I honed onto the thought of metamorphosis. What is the definition? How does it happen? Why do mammals or insects go through that change? Then, I changed my sights to how metamorphosis is treated narratively, especially in media. And there it was, the answer I was looking for. Kafka's The Metamorphosis. This story was the laying foundation, for me, to talk about societal themes of disability, abandonment, and body image. I was able to pick out the best aspects that I thought were interesting and use that to inspire my own storyline. I had started broad with general themes, descriptive words, color palettes, and genres. I was hooked onto the themes of reaction, disgust, trapped, and freedom. I also considered the type of shot I wanted and the set design that I needed. For my set, I decided to go with rundown apartments to show the main character's mental state. I chose leading lines, symmetry, and rule of thirds to support that feeling even more. Later down the weeks, I finalized my ideas into categories that will help shape my narrative, characters, backgrounds, and mediums. For my plot, I wanted to highlight a reflection, something that captures the audience's attention by wondering what happened, but not to reveal a lot. I created a storyboard to draft out how my story is going to look. I needed to visualize the plot, determine the camera angles, determine the pacing, and determine the character acting. I think I was pretty ambitious on this stage. Deciding on plasticine for my main material, I started designing my main protagonist. I looked at pointy triangular shapes mixed in with softer rectangles. My goal was to make a monster-like character that has undertones of kindness. For inspiration, I looked at mythological creatures like skinwalkers to get that beastly look. Also, I looked at features of caracals to get the pointy edges. In my sketches, I definitely achieved this, but it was too beastly and too complex. I ultimately went with the route of simpler anatomy and chose these two designs to best fit my objective. Also, the reason I picked cats was because of the animated short Magical Cat. Here is a look at me modeling my designs. Here is a look at my side characters. These will be my antagonists for the story. My focus on these designs were to show a contrast between them and my main character. I plan to use a different material than the plasticine used. In my concept sketches, I chose round and sturdy shapes like circles and rectangles to show a strong muscular archetype and a little sibling archetype. Essentially, I wanted these characters to be somewhat related to the main character. Also made another character sketch basing the design of Sphinx cats, but ultimately scrapped it as I thought the design didn't really flow with the plot. Here's another digital sheet, this time for laser cutting. The purpose for this cutout was to show expression to the main character in the plot. Debating on using laser cutting was based off if I needed to use paper more or maybe use a different material. So I decided to laser cut my side characters instead, where my initial idea was to just use paper. After creating my characters, I started sketching my backgrounds. I based off my designs from the research and various mood boards I created to get that abandoned apartment look I was looking for. I knew I needed a feeling of isolation, so I needed my set to be small. When working on concepts, I was more attached to my bathroom drawings, as I thought that it would work even better and be more effective to get that loneliness feeling. After finishing my concepts for my background, I started making my physical set. I bought some cardboard from Amazon and used acrylic paint and followed the color palettes from my concepts. Here's what they look like, and I planned for my set to be mobile so that during filming I can break it apart and manipulate the angles
During a workshop in Soda's stop motion base, I decided to bring my protagonist sculpt to test out how it can move and determine its limitations with character acting. This was a huge slap in the face. I had realized that my character was too anatomically structured and was more like a statue, and I could not move it. The weeks after that, I was so lost. How to design, and especially how I can make my new design walk. Not until I found a video of a behind the scenes from a Cal Arts film called The Little Poet. The creator To was inspired by sculpture by Kaneko Ozawa to make their main character. And this was a huge eureka moment for me, as I got really inspired by the statue itself as well. The simplicity of it all and having the mixture of anatomy with something so broad was the perfect answer to make my new design. I quickly made sketches of potential character designs, exploring different shapes and body types. I really liked the short round cat the most. I then digitalized that drawing on Procreate, exploring the character in motion, the different forms it can take, etc. Here's the video of me making my designs and a picture of what they look like.
After that whole debacle, I reflected on my storyboard. Making my new character had me cautious on what to look out for before the production stage even started. Here's the new storyboard. I chose a little bit safe of my camera angles, having a still shot between frames 1 to 7. I might need to change the character acting in frames 19 to 25, but either from that, everything is the same. During my production stage, it was pretty smooth for the most part. I was able to book out open slots for various amounts of hours in the Chatham building. Filming took about 3 days to get everything from my storyboard onto the screen. The only problem I came across was losing the license mid-filming on day 2. I had no clue on what happened, but I think it was a glitch or something because I regained the license during filming on day 3. This is the stage where I needed to composite and edit everything. This was a fun process to do since I love editing and that I can fix any pacing issues or transitions that might look off. There were issues that I was facing when trying to fit into that 20-30 second limit, so I had to remove a section that you can see here, which was more exposition to sink the viewer into the world or the bathroom. I was pretty sad since it was a pretty good scene that would have helped the pacing later on in the story. For my sound design, I created my own sound effects, from the walking in some scenes, the slamming of the doors, people talking. I used my friends for that. And, the movement of the character as well. I also used some free audio that was on Pixabay, so I thank GCI21 and Free Sound Community for the ambient sounds as background noise. I modified most of the sound effects by stacking the audio onto each other, using effects on Premiere Pro, and changing the volume to make other audios more prominent. But yeah, this whole short animation was very fun looking back, and that I just wish I would have done an animatic before I started the actual production of the film. But I from that, yeah, see you.